Hello, I'm the Dark Master, and welcome back to my LEGO reviews. In today's video, we should be reviewing set number 25312, Boba Fett Starship from the LEGO Star Wars theme. It comes with 592 pieces in 4 bags, a sticker sheet, and 2 minifigures. As always, let us start with the minifigures. From left to right, we have Din Djarin, also known as the Mandalorian, and Boba Fett the Bounty Hunter. Starting with the Mandalorian, we see that for the helmet, he has the new helmet design, molded in silver with some black and gray printing meant to recreate the classic visor seen on the show. The piece also has some pinholes that can see something inserted into it, as we will see shortly. Heck, even the back of the helmet has some really neat molded in details that really show a level of care that's normally not seen. Removing the helmet, and we can see that he literally just has a blank black head with no face at all, sadly. I kind of understood why this was the case during the wave released for the first season, and they didn't want to spoil what he looked like, but I do think that since he has removed his helmet, admittedly in one of the weakest episodes of the show so far, this whole concept is no longer forgivable and just seems like a lazy cost-cutting maneuver than an attempt to avoid spoilers for any genuinely good reason. So, bleh, this black head looks ugly. Going down from there, we see he wears a gray fabric cloak that is of rather high quality and has a good texture, and can be moved around easy. Going down from there, we can get a look at his front torso printing, and it's pretty decent, having a shiny chest plate of armor set over a dark brown undersuit. It has all those various belts and assorted objects that a bounty hunter would appreciate and utilize when they are hunting for something. Overall, it's a great printing and is rather shiny in all things considered. Going to the back and lifting the cape, we can get a better look at the back printing. And it has all the visible armor related details you would expect, but it is slightly simpler, which is fine given that it's normally covered up by the cape, but it's still unfortunate when that happens. Now let's go to the arms of the figure, which are molded in dark brown but have some very unique printing on it, being arm printing. And arm printing in general is very uncommon in LEGO, but I think this is really cool in this figure, and it goes a step further as each arm has its own printing, meaning it's asymmetrical. The right arm bears shoulder armor and an armband, while the left arm is similar with some slightly different little details that are admittedly somewhat unnoticeable, but it's a level of detail you normally don't see. Mandalorian has black hands, which are very utilitarian, but nothing much to talk about. Going down to his legs, we see that he bears a pair of asymmetrical kneecap armor printed over a dark brown molded pair of legs, and that look fine but are rather forgettable. In terms of weaponry, the Mandalorian wields two. The first is a Beskar spear, which is represented by just a standard LEGO spear molded in silver. Perfectly utilitarian, but again, nothing particularly special. The other weapon is a short pistol that is again neat, but nothing that unique and has been seen in tons of other sets before. Overall, this is a perfectly fine figure of the Mandalorian, with some admittedly unexpected details, but due to its nature of being just the Mandalorian, it doesn't really achieve any lasting value beyond that of representing the Mandalorian. Meaning, if you're looking for something deeper, this figure really won't do much for you. Now let's go to the infamous bounty hunter known as Boba Fett. Starting from the top, we see he has the same Mandalorian type helmet, molded in sand green, that has all the neat molding I discussed earlier. Though it has some unique battle damage printing and dark green plus maroon colored visor printings that, capture the look of Boba Fett's armor. And he also has an antenna added to one of those pinholes that he uses for hunting, so it's still a good piece and it's nice to see it in more colors. Removing the helmet, we see that he has a unique face print bearing a serious scowl with numerous healed battle scars. He has no alternative face, but the back side of the head does bear more scars set over his desert suntanned skin. Overall, it's a great head print that even further pushes the idea that the Mandalorian should have had his own face print. I mean, seriously, if they give one to Boba Fett, why couldn't they give one to that guy? Going down from there, we see he has a jetpack piece molded in sand green, which, while yes, not a new piece, we've seen it in previous colors and sets. I genuinely think it's a cool piece and, frankly, one of my favorite colors Lego has. Going further down to his torso, we see that he has his old green armor laid over the black robes he wore in his show for the first part of it. It's a fine compromise, but I'll be honest, the green does look a bit off compared to like the normal clothing he has, which has a lighter coloration and better works with the green. Going to the back and removing the jetpack so we can get a better look at the back print. It's much like the one in Mandalorian in that it is simpler than the front print, but still captures all the essential details. And it's fine as it's usually covered up by the jetpack, so it's not really that big of a deal. Going to his arms, we see that they, much like Mandalorian, bear printing that is asymmetrical. The right arm has his strange skull symbol on the yellow shoulder armor and a red wristband. The left arm is similar but lacks the emblem. Going to the hands, they are a simple utilitarian black. Going down to the legs, they are molded in black and bear a asymmetrical set of kneecap armor. They are far less obvious in their asymmetry than those of the Mandalorian, but they are in gold, so they do shine a bit more. However, still, they're relatively forgettable. In terms of weaponry, Boba Fett wields a sort of sniper rifle type gun that uses a lightsaber hilt as a barrel, which is pretty neat parts usage, but is otherwise an admittedly forgettable weapon. Overall, it's a fine interpretation of Boba Fett, but only has appeal if you are into getting a Boba Fett figure. Otherwise, you probably will have no interest in this figure at all. And I do think some of the little details are a bit weird, like the black robes. They're just kind of sad, and it's an unfortunate holdover from the Boba Fett show. But now let's talk about the pieces and the stickers that made up the set. That set comes with a great number of sand green and maroon pieces, both of which are nice colors to get and are some of my favorites. There's a special note being these slope pieces used to build the sides of the ship. They all look really cool and are just really well noticed, and I enjoy having the number of them. So if you want to deconstruct this ship, you can get a lot of good pieces. I would also like to point out that the sticker sheet is reasonably sized for a set of this price. I would say that while yes, you could leave them off like I've said in previous set reviews, here there is one sticker in particular that we shall discuss shortly that I would highly recommend not leaving off because it really hampers a part of the set. The others are somewhat less substantive, but overall, what about what the pieces and the stickers build though? How is that? Well, for one, there are technically three builds, though one's pretty small. And let's start with the smallest and work our way up. First, we got this Gamorrean guard that has been sadly trapped in carbonite, and is probably the bounty. And this is why you should apply at least this one sticker, because without all these really neat details, it's just a bland gray column piece with a silver grate piece on top. You really need this one particular sticker to get the effect that the set is going for. The second build is a bit more substantial, being this sort of bike-style transport carrier called a transport vehicle. Really original name there, Lego. Starting from the front, we see it has a pair of headlights and antenna pieces used for controlling the vehicle. The seat is pretty bare bones and utilitarian, and going to the back, we see it has a ladder piece used as a holder for the prisoner of your choice in carbonite. The vehicle has these translucent inverted circular plates that allow for it to coast over smooth surfaces very easily. That's very neat, while also giving the illusion that's floating. Overall, this is a pretty small build, but it's really nice to see. Though admittedly it is a little forgettable. But now let's go to the star of the set, Boba Fett ship. But before I talk about that, there's something that I think I need to address, just so that nobody is confused. You see that Disney decided to change the name of this vehicle. Originally it was called Slave One. Now it is officially referred to as a fire spray gunship. I don't particularly like this change, not because I'm against change or whatever straw man someone will say, but simply because I think the original name seemed more individualized, while this newer one is more like a class of ship or a type of ship rather than a specific name like Slave One. It's just far more generic, frankly. And yes, I know what people are going to say. Well, slave is like offensive, but I think the context is perfectly fine. And really, the word itself is not necessarily bad. It's more when it's applied to people, you know? And really, I don't know why they felt the need to change it. As for the ship itself, starting from the front, we see that there are a pair of guns that can be rotated slightly. They don't actually work, but they're still well designed. Going up from there, we see there are some nice shaping and a pair of stud shooters that can actually be used to shoot stuff. And so you get, in addition, the look, but also the functionality. Going to the cockpit, we see that it uses a darkened, translucent colored piece that frankly works rather well. Sadly, the cockpit itself is rather bare, except for a control piece that's printed on a wedge slope, which is perfectly serviceable if not particularly detailed. It has these two wings that can well rotate slightly and frankly don't really do much except capture the look of the ship, so they're kind of forgettable. Going back from there, we see a really well hidden area for the prisoner or other cargo of choice to be held, and when it's closed, it's almost invisible, so it's one of those neat little things you don't notice at first. Going to the back, we see several neat little details. For example, there are these translucent orange pieces that, in addition to simulating the illusion of engines for the ship, they also allow the ship to coast over flat surfaces, much like that of the previous build. There is also this handle which allows one to hold onto it and will be tucked away when you're just displaying it, so that's pretty neat. Also, I'm going to be frank, it looks just pretty ugly in general from this side of the ship. Overall, it's a perfectly fine replication of the original Slave One ship from the movies, but if you want more than that, you don't really get that. I mean, the plate features are pretty minimal, and though it does fit in the hand well, I just think that it's honestly not that well designed in terms of like play functions. But now let's discuss the positives, negatives, and my final thoughts on the set. Starting with the positives, I think that the three builds are relatively well made, and I think that while two are not really charismatic, they do serve a play function that is relatively reasonable. I also thought that the two minifigures were neat for what they were and had a lot of neat little details that you normally don't see in minifigures. The arm printing, that's impressive, honestly. However, the set does have quite a few negatives. Firstly, this set really needed more minifigures. I mean, four would have been good, five would have been great, but the absolute minimum would have been three. But this set only has two, and for a set of this price and size, that is unforgivable. Just such cheapness. And frankly, I think that a large area of the ship just looks grotesquely ugly, especially the back. And frankly, for $50, I think you could get a lot more fun out of, say, a set from Ninjago or a city set. I do not recommend buying this unless you are a die-hard Star Wars fan, which, I mean, admittedly, if you're a Star Wars fan, I think you get a lot of more joy out of this set. I don't normally buy licensed sets. This was a gift from a friend, so if you're into Star Wars, you might enjoy this set more. I am the Dark Master, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing to the channel if you would like to see more of these sorts of videos. Admittedly, this will be the last LEGO review I do for a while, as I've run out of LEGO sets to review, but I do have a lot of other LEGO-related content, and just in general, relatively decent video essays I think you will really enjoy. So, anyway, I am the Dark Master, and have a great day.